Good morning and welcome to the Lowestoft Town Council Events and Communications Subcommittee at Hamilton House in Lowestoft. Hopefully you're welcome to watch our proceedings. And here with me at Hamilton House are councillors Nick Webb, Bernie Rappensberger, Christian Newsom, Andy Pearce, Nasima Begum and myself, Sonia Barker, who's Chair of Events and Communications Subcommittee. So welcome. In the event of I was going to do that in a minute. In the event of a fire, please follow instructions and directions to the fire exits and make your way to the assembly point adjacent to the Quick Fit building. In the interest of openness and transparency, the law permits recording and photography to report on the proceedings of council meetings when they are open to the public. No flash photography or additional lighting should be used without prior consent. Anyone wishing to report on the meeting or anyone not wishing to be filmed or photographed should notify the clerk or chair. The meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, therefore please remember to speak clearly and use your microphone, remembering to switch it off when you have finished. As the chair of the meeting, I have the discretion to suspend or terminate the live streaming if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings of the meeting. Improper conduct or disruptive behaviour will not be tolerated. Please raise your hand to indicate your wish to speak and wait for me to call upon you. As chair of the meeting, I will determine the order in which members will be invited to speak. To ensure the efficiency of the meeting, no member may speak for more than 3 minutes on one item or more than once. Therefore, please make your points as concisely as possible. Please may also remind you to be polite and respectful towards one another at all times. Please put your phones on silent mode and put phones away for the duration of the meeting and adhere to the no smoking policy of this building and its grounds. Can I also welcome to the meeting the two members of staff from Lowestoft Town Council, which is Christopher Meek, the LTC Events and Office Manager, and Michael Winter, LTC Communications and IT Officer. So we come to item 15 to receive and consider approval of apologies for absence. Have we got any?
Chair, Councillor Colby, Councillor Brooks and Councillor Pitts, all with reasons supplied.
Thank you. Is that to approve the apologies? Is that Councillor Pearce and seconded by Councillor Begum, in a vote, please, to accept the apologies? Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 16, declarations of interest and dispensation, 16.1. Have we had any declarations of disclosable, pecuniary, other registrable and non-registrable interest from councillors on items on the agenda?
Received, Chair.
Thank you. 16.2, to consider written requests for dispensations for interest and note dispensations granted.
And received, Chair.
Thank you. Item 17, to consider the draft minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of June 2025. Hopefully we've read them. Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, just one issue really was 7.1, the membership. It omits Councillor Rappensberger and Pitts, even though both apologies were accepted from both of them at item 3 and they are named as members on the website.
Yep.
So, and also just the other thing, the first 3 councillors' names, their names are all in lowercase. That minute can just be tidied up, but otherwise subject to that. I recommend approval of those minutes as a true and accurate record of that meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Pearce. Yeah, I spotted the lowercase one, so I'm glad you raised that, and the missing names. Okay, well, with those amendments, if they can be put right, please, and you accept it and propose it, and can I have can I have a second to Councillor Begum and a vote to accept the minutes with those amendments? Thank you. That's unanimous. Item 18, public forum, an opportunity for the public to make comments on any matters on this agenda and to consider any advanced comments from the public. Have we had any?
None received, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item 19, finance, to monitor expenditure by the subcommittee from its delegated budget. Could we have that up on the screen, please? Councillor Pearce.
It's fine. I was going to ask for that anyway, because there was a comment made at full council last night which suggested the events budget might be stretched. I'm not aware of any issues that have been flagged. I wonder whether it's just because the available balance on there includes committed expenditure, not just actual expenditure to date. But I just wondered if we could have a look at it.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Yeah, I think the difference with events and comms budget is that it's allocated and it's very upfront. And this is a really, summer is between May and sort of September is our key time. So things, if you like, look front loaded, which they are. Yeah, I was aware of the comment made at full council, so we can have a look.
Well, I
at
mean,
that.
according to that, if that's up to date,
A couple obviously incoming
invoices,
but
but broadly speaking, it's up to date. So you've got like against the unallocated events budget. Can we just scroll up a bit? Is it? So I'm short-sighted. Is that 1,600 and something against the very top one in column R? 1,800 against the. Is that only a? No, it's the one down below one. All right, so that I think that's probably what the person was looking at. That we've got 12 grand expenditure against a 15 grand budget. That's for events where where there's no earmarked expenditure. So that excludes all the major events where to use Sonia's phrase, we have we have an allocated ring fenced expenditure. So
as you said, Councillor Pearce, there are a couple of things this year that we've had addition. So obviously got Andy the fun activities, etc.
yeah.
We had Suffolk Day, which I know we had support for that as well.
Yeah, the request for that came in after we'd done the precept demand, so we didn't ring fence it.
Extra things, isn't it?
As far as I understand it, don't quote me on this, you might want to check with the organiser, but there will be no intention to draw down on the HODS budget this year. So that should be underspend. But the deadline has already passed. I mean, it used to be used, or a chunk of it used to be used for preparing the booklet to advertising it. But the HODS deadline to do that, to get the stuff off the website, I think is normally the end of July. So I think you'd have heard now if they intended to use it for publication. So obviously a decision can then be made if they don't draw on that, on whether it's rolled over or whether it just goes into underspend or is reallocated.
Thank you, Councillor Bagan.
Yeah, I'm obviously new to this committee, so apologies if this sounds like a silly question, but
There's no such thing.
what's the difference between the bold events budget and the not bold events budget? Like,
That one,
yeah.
So that's the committed. Is that my understanding?
So the bold events budget is just a total. So then underneath that you have the events budget, which is just it's like a budget for smaller events where you don't pre-allocate them. Whereas the other things where we hold them manually, or we know we're going to get a grant application or something like that, we make a decision to allocate specific funding and ring fence it. It doesn't come out of an unallocated pot. So they tend to be the larger events. The ones that come out the main events budget are things that are in the low hundreds for each one, rather than things that need a soundstage.
Councillor Bagan.
So I think what's causing the confusion then, because people are probably looking at that events budget and thinking that that is the whole events budget. So maybe that heading could be changed slightly to reflect that.
But so obviously the sum total of all the lines below is the 60,000. But the amount that's unallocated to any specific event at the start of the year is the 15,000. And if anybody was looking at that and thinking it was squeezed, I would probably say that they're looking at that. We're 4 or 5 months in and we've had 12 grand expenditure against the 15 grand budget. But as Sonia said, the lion's share of that will probably be Suffolk Day, because the request came in for financial support on that after we'd submitted the budget. Otherwise it would almost certainly have been ring fenced as a major event. And obviously we funded that to a significant extent, including the soundstage. So it very much was funded as a large major event. So I would say well over 80% of that. Would you say, Chris, is probably Suffolk Day?
Okay, so you're just going to note that tweak, are you?
We note the tweak and are happy, as you said, we'll review it with James and the Chair of Finance and Governance if need be.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, okay. So thanks for that,
I
Councillor.
think the headline figure to look at is column S, the second one down. The anticipated year-end surplus is 43 grand. That won't be the year-end surplus because even though I don't anticipate any expenditure against the HODS budget, we have got expenditure against budget for VE Day. So actually it will come down, but probably not. We haven't got any expenditure against budget for Remembrance and HMD. So, I mean, it might be prudent to actually put in anticipated committed expenditure 5,000 because we're not actually anticipating any underspend from that. So that'll bring that down to 38. You know, I think looking at that anticipated underspend, even allowing for Suffolk Day expenditure, we're in a fairly healthy position on events.
Yeah. Okay. Any more comments or questions? Okay, so thanks for that input there, Councillor Megan. That's also good if you get different people on a committee, you get a different viewpoint, which is always helpful. Okay, so that's just to note, isn't it? We haven't got to.
No, we know those, all the comments.
Yeah, and interesting about the HODS comment as well from Councillor Pearce. So thank. Item 20, communications 20.1, to consider the purchase of a maximum budget for an annual subscription to Canva, which the paper for this was sent out by Michael. Would you like to just talk to this one, Michael?
Yeah, so ever since I've started here, so we're talking over 3 years now, I've used a program called Canva. It's an online website where you can do, it's got lots of templates, but you can do social media graphics. Basically, anything you see on our social media that's a bit graphic-y comes from that. There's a free version, which I've been using for the past 3 years. But there's also a paid-for version, which gives us access to more sort of elements to use, more music. If you've seen any of the videos recently we've been doing, that's because I went for the 1 month trial just to see how it all worked. Really impressed with the results. But it's not just me who uses it. Sports Development Officer uses it for his stuff, and the Town Hall project use it for their stuff. So within the proposal, there is an option of just buying one account, or you can do a Teams one, which is 3 people use it. We can do a bit of collaboration. Sports Development Officer and I are always collaborating on design, sending it to each other. And for a relatively low cost, I think it's really good. You know, like I said, we've been using a lot more video and things, so it's just a way of enhancing that.
Thank you, Councillor Megan.
I'm pleased to hear that you did the 1 month trial. So obviously you can see that you will get use out of it. I'm happy to propose.
Councillor Pearce.
I'm happy to second.
Yeah.
I'll just say I'm happy with the budget allocation recommendation as well in the paper, so go with that. If you're happy to accept that, can we just ask you if this is going to be an annual thing? Obviously, we'll take it from that budget this year because it's a request that's come in after the budget has been submitted. But if Naseem is willing to accept the amendment that we ask James in future years to add it to the subscriptions budget for the council, so we do have a separate budget for all our professional subscriptions, so that from next year it goes on the professional subscriptions budget.
Yeah, and thank you for the paper. Any other comments, Councillor Webb?
Just to say, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I'm very familiar with Canva myself. I use it myself for my own stuff, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It's becoming a real sort of go-to. Oh, yeah. It's definitely become the go-to place for graphics and videos and all that jazz and everything that we're doing. And yeah, with the new website, it makes absolutely perfect sense. And it's for 270. That's the annual
That's the
the annual amount, isn't it? 270 quid. It's well worth it, but for what we're trying to do and achieve. So yeah, fully support the recommendation and proposal and the seconding.
Okay, thank you. If we can have a vote on that. That's unanimous, thank you. And thanks for the paper, and thank you to everybody that's using it so well. Thank you. I know you mentioned this monthly IT drop-in before, didn't you? But just flagging it up to everybody.
Yeah, so it's a new thing I've started. The first one happened last month. It happens on the first Thursday of every month before personnel committee for an hour. I think I only notified you of the first one like the day before. But I know Councillor Webb.
Great cake.
Well, yeah, there's cake. But Councillor Webb came along. We looked at a few things of yours. You ate cake. Councillor Brooks as well. I know came and we sorted out a few things. So yeah, it's just to let you all know that that's a service I'm offering. It's a drop in. Bring any troubleshooting you have. I'm also going to look at doing a little bit of a themed thing. So if something comes up, it'll be, and I'll let you know in advance, I might do a little talk on the latest things in cyber security and how to get your best password. Here's a new feature on Outlook you might be interested in, that kind of thing. And then sort of what you want as well. So
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Half the press, Michael, otherwise I'd have emailed you before. I'm happy to wait. It's not urgent. I'm happy to wait for the next drop in or come in separately if that's easier, unless you know what it is and you can tell me on email. I had to take minutes of a section of a couple of meetings recently, you know, which were confidential because staff had to step outside the room. And when I typed them up, obviously we have the thing where you have to type up in OneDrive. You know,
yeah,
to have an editable document, otherwise you get prompted for the product key and everything. So I had a Word document. I was working in OneDrive, and I then downloaded it. So I went in downloads, I copied it to OneDrive, and then in there I had a personnel folder. I put it in there. When I went to go in there to edit it, it wasn't appearing in the search.
right, okay.
Is there a time lag between when you move a document and when it actually appears in the search?
Sometimes, but I can have a look.
Because I couldn't find it, and but obviously it was like late at night, so I didn't like sort of give it half an hour and then wait. But obviously that was, you know, that's a time loss because I needed to wait for a document to appear
Yeah.
to then be able to edit it.
I can have a look at that for you if you
Is
like.
that okay?
But
Yeah.
just to note that although I'm running these drop-in sessions, that doesn't mean that that's the only time I'm going to troubleshoot. You can raise an issue. If you have an issue, please do contact me. But that's just an open, informal place where sort of group of you and we can chat anything sort of new or recurring issues sort of all together.
Can I just say, because I think when councillors are busy, you tend to forget easily if you haven't, you know, it's not an issue at the moment. If you just sort of put it as a reminder, you know, your councillor
Yeah.
update on a Friday, if you just sort of make a little jokey thing of it and put it there again, because I think people do forget and they think, oh, right, yeah, I can allocate that time. Or if I'm going to the personnel, you can fit it in. So yeah, if you just keep reminding us, because
Will do.
it's so easy for things like that to slip out of your head. Okay, well, that's just personally speaking. Perhaps other people are more efficient at that, but really helpful, and thanks for that. Okay, right, we're on to item 21. So we're looking at events, and 21.1, this was sent out in a separate update to note attendance at events of the mayor and deputy mayor. So thank you for that. Did you want to speak to that, councillor?
Say that I don't know if it's worked, but I've added a few more on the bottom.
Yeah, thank you. And it's so good to see that, because I think, as I've raised before, that one or two members of this committee said to me when I was mayor, oh, you know, they didn't know what was going on or who did what. Although you might see it out there in publicity terms, there are other things that are not covered. As though you'll know if you go outside of the town, you won't necessarily see that in the local press or on the website. Councillor Pearce.
Can I just say the two events on this table from the 17th and 18th, I accompanied the deputy mayor on those. So I just wanted to say, I'm not singling these out, it's just because I was there and heard it. They were both very appreciative of what the town council is doing generally with events to raise the profile of the town, and both commented on that at their event. And in the case of the one on the 18th, where they'd actually received a grant, specifically acknowledged the grant, said that the event wouldn't have been possible without it, and gave significant prominence to the logo on the display. So obviously all feeds into grant conditions, but both of them were generally very complimentary of what the town council is doing with events to try and raise the profile of the town.
Thanks for that, Councillor Pearce. I think, again, that is the really positive thing about going to those sorts of events, that people really do appreciate what we're trying to do. And that's really excellent. So thanks for that. And sometimes I think, you know, it's really good if you feed back, particularly to staff as well, because they do a lot of the work, and it's really good if they're maybe not there accompanying you or at the event, and you feed it back. It's really good. So thanks for that. It's really useful. So we're on any more queries or comments on that one? Okay, so that goes to, does this go to aid, the minutes, or the?
Well, the minutes go to aid,
Yeah, but not the list. That's just noted. Okay, thank you. 21.2, to consider any applications for events on town council owned land.
Friends of Pen Park, end of July, just for the children's activity. They've obviously moved date, and the September the 13th for Kensington Gardens for the Aldborough, Lowestoft to Aldborough 50k race. That's all at time of writing.
Oh, right. Is that the one that was held last year from the prom?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Kensington Gardens is their starting point.
Oh, right. Yes. It's quite a achievement to even start it, never mind finish it. I think it's impressive. So good it's happening in our zone. So thanks for that. 21.3, to receive a report of permissions granted for events on town council owned land. Have we?
None.
None.
Chair.
Okay, thank you. 21.4, to review and consider the following timetable of events. So this will be a quick review and comments. 29th of June, Lowestoft 10k. Would you like to comment on that?
Councillors would like to comment. There were several councillors there on the day, so
Yeah, sadly I couldn't make it. I was unwell, so I felt really badly about that, because I was allocated and couldn't make it. Councillor Pearce, I know you were on one of the stations.
I was there, and being the picture of fitness I am, I obviously made the decision by having a static post at one of the away posts and not actually doing the running. It was a lot cooler than it was forecast to be, which I think, given the terrain, I think everyone was relieved that it wasn't in the high 20s, 30 and so on like that. It was low 20s, but as far as I can tell, like from the feedback on the day and subsequently, it went as well as can be expected. I mean, all I noticed at the end was, because you had the barricades across the path, you had some people who insisted it was a right of way and were trying to remove the barriers and climb over them and stuff like that, but no one got aggressive or anything like that. It was just, I'm not, you know, if there's a barrier in my way, the obvious thing you do is move it out the way, not actually respect it. But there you go. But we got through it. So no, as far as I was aware, and everything I've heard since, it went very well. So I would like to propose, off the base of that trial run, that we do look at holding this as an annual event. Obviously, we can't make that decision ourselves. It has to go to committee and potentially to full council. But I think it was well received. The fact that the tickets for all the runners sold out in the time they did. I think if there is any way that the number of places can be increased without sort of compromising on safety, I know that was mentioned on the day, that might be possible up to a certain threshold, then please explore that. But somebody else mentioned, who's not here, on email about the possibility of maybe holding one or two other events at like shorter distances, you know, for people who aren't up to the 10k, whether that could also be looked into as well, obviously on different dates. But yes, so I'd make that as a formal proposal, you know, both the 10k as an annual event and perhaps the possibility of as a spin-off some shorter events on other days for people who don't feel able to do the Gruelling 10k.
Just, yeah, I'll second that. I thought of that because, as you know, the other end of Lowestoft, every Saturday morning you have Park Run, which is 5k, which isn't a race. It's more individuals can walk or run, and that's 5k. So yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's good, which is why I'm seconding it. But also to thank, place on record thanks to all the staff, and I know you and team there, and the all those when I looked in the office and it was just covered with those bags that were going to be given out to the runners, you realise the huge amount of organisation, which was exemplary, I thought. Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you came up with the idea, but on the day, I think you have to look at which of our staff there. Everybody piled in, didn't they? Chris was there. There were Mark was there. Other members of the ground maintenance team was there. So
yeah.
So everyone piled in, and on these major events where people do this, I think that's what makes it click.
Yeah.
Because if people weren't there to handle that, and to help with the logistics, including the security barriers. I mean, Mark and the GMT have turned up at short notice at other events when things like barriers that were meant to be sorted by other parties didn't materialise, and they turned out at half an hour's notice.
Yeah.
Early in the morning before 9 o'clock to sometimes significantly before 9 o'clock. I think they were out several hours before this event started. Is that right?
Yeah.
We were there at 5:30.
I thought it was early morning.
Yeah.
So I think
saw 2 5:30s on Sunday, and that's not a normal protocol.
No. Well, just to say from this from myself, and I'm sure the committee, just to thank everybody, because it was a huge team.
Involved,
If that could go out officially, to thank everybody, because I think it's almost like we're so used to the team efficiently running things, but to me, getting up at that time is super efficient and super dedicated. So thank you.
Could I ask, Chair, obviously you said it there and asked for the note to go out, but could I just ask that we officially record it in the minutes as well?
Yeah, oh yes,
note of thanks to all staff who were involved.
Yeah, thanks for that. So you propose, I've seconded, and then we have a vote on the items covered there. Thank you, that's unanimous. Next one, 12th of July, Lowestoft Pride. So just to report back on that, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, as I said, it was sunshine, third time lucky, so sunshine all day.
Yeah.
So, it said a well-attended event, and it said several councillors there again, so it was good to see. As I said, it was a nice day for all, and despite the backdrop of international politics, so yes, and national politics as well. So it was nice. It was a nice event. A couple of issues. Overall, with the attendance and interactions on social media, I think the event.
Well, it's good to see the councillors as a force for bringing the community together, which is part of our role, isn't it? So thank you, Councillor Pearce, then Councillor Bagan.
Just to say I was there, well, Chris has touched on it. National politics and media coverage elsewhere. Just to say that a couple of the stallholders, I was chatting with them towards the end, and I think you can safely say that I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that for obvious reasons, but these were people who consider themselves to be from marginalised groups, were saying how important it is to them that Lowestoft Town Council runs this event, and please keep it up. So I'd like to relay that officially.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Bagan.
Just to say that I've heard nothing but positive things about the event. It was very well attended from what I could see. Apologies that I couldn't make it, but I think it went really well. It was enjoyed by the community, and hopefully it'll carry on.
Thank you, Councillor Rappensberger.
Yeah, I'd concur with all that. Staff did the usual brilliant job. Everyone seemed to have a good time. I spoke to a number of people who had stalls and just people visiting, and they loved it. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. And again, recording the minutes, thank you to everybody involved and the team that were involved as well, because that would have been the groundspeople as well, setting out the stall.
It would, and also young John was there, manning the town council stall for the town hall project. I think it's fair to say he got a lot of engagement. I think both sides of the paper were fully drawn and written on by the end of the day. So yeah, shout out to him as well.
Thanks very much. Next one is something that's coming up. So 15th of August, a VJ 2025 VJ Day.
So yeah, Friday the 15th. Thank you, Chair. Friday the 15th, Sparrows Nest Gardens, probably early morning, around 10. Spoken to the Royal Navy Patrol, Royal British Legion, the other stakeholders, Lord Kitcheners, etc. But tree planting ceremony along about 10 o'clock, in the morning. Looking at that. So yeah, as I said, as directed by the committee, a ceremony to mark obviously the 80th anniversary, and the grounds maintenance team suggested Sparrows Nest Gardens due to Kensington Gardens being overcrowded with trees. I know previously we did do it 5 years ago in Kensington Gardens, but the Sparrows Nest Gardens had enough space to facilitate the tree planting ceremony and the plaque and the symbol plaque.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, so touched on before, I don't know whether there's other things that are going to be penciled in for the day or whatever like that. I mean, this is quite a tricky one and sensitive one in some quarters, because you know, we use VE and VJ Day, but obviously what they stand for, you know, victory in Europe, victory over Japan. You know, in 1945 they meant something. In the 21st century it can sound a bit triumphalist and jingoistic on the one hand. So I don't know that the names have stood the test of time, but certainly what they represent is as valid now as it was 80 years ago. And I think VJ Day is tricky because obviously the symbolism for many is the mushroom cloud, and people have different opinions on, you know, the bomb. And nuclear weapons generally, you know, whilst others will contend that actually, you know, the A-bomb, when it did, actually prevented further loss of life, you know, and you can have that argument till the cows come home and you're never going to reach a full consensus on it. I think locally, though, you know, for many local families, you know, because Japan and the Pacific Campaign was mainly the Americans, was the American-Japanese aspect of the war. The areas in which the British were in were mainly Southeast Asia, so Burma, Malaya, Singapore, and obviously the camps. You know, the camps on the Burma Railway, and there were units of the Suffolks and the Norfolks who were captured at Singapore. So a lot of local families had parents or grandparents who were in the camps. Some survived, some didn't. And there's never really been any official reconciliation there in the way that has been in Europe. You know, I mean, in Europe, so I think most of the combatants, you know, old comrades reunions, they achieved their recognition years ago, if not decades ago. That's never really happened with the Far Eastern campaign, and so obviously the sensitivities endure. And I think we have to be, I've said it before, I think we have to be careful about anything that will be perceived as jingoistic and triumphalist, but at the same time we have to take, I believe, very seriously the remembrance and commemoration, just as we do in November and other events. So, and there has to be an element of peace in it. Peace is an element of the commemoration, but also not just sort of gloss over it as if we're embarrassed to do anything about it. so it becomes tokenist. And I don't know that we're ever going to please everybody with this one. So I just wonder, like, whether consideration between now and then can be given in the itinerary to for that. I don't know if we've got any speakers lined up or any. I realise for schools are in the school holidays.
No schools and no speakers. That was more the symbolism of the tree planting and the unveiling of the plaque, and
Okay.
alongside members of Royal British
But
Legion.
I'm glad you've got the Legion involved, because I think therein lies the remembrance, and you know, and we support them. So as long as that's happening, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say too much on this because you've encapsulated it, but I know from my late father's point of view, he was training in South Africa, and he would have been sent out. He was RAF. As he said to me, well, that's saved his life, you know, the bomb dropping, and then obviously, as a former history teacher, I would have to explain that you have to weigh up the two sides, and he had, because he lived in Great Yarmouth, and all but two of his mates who joined, he volunteered for the RAF because he was in the ATS, but his classmates, all but two of those were captured at Singapore, and only one survived. So yeah, I've sort of grown up with that history background as a family understanding, as well as the academic side. So you have to be very sensitive towards this, and it's an issue that we really need to think about in a very sensitive way. So I'd agree. So thanks for that. Which shows we all do think about it, and we think very deeply about these things. Okay, so thanks for that, and you'll flag up to us the information.
Yeah, it's laid in the council update for all councillors, etc.
Yes, so if you can make it on the 15th, you know, I realise people have work commitments, that would be really good. So thank you for that one. Right, 23rd of August, Norfolk and Waveney Mind Wellness Festival, which has been advertised, I've seen already.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christopher. And
It said Michael's been sharing this social media posts.
oh, and yeah,
It's on our website. We've been liaising with them as well for obviously use of Sparrows Nest Gardens on the Sunday.
Yeah.
Saturday, sorry, apologies. But yeah, they seem to be progressing well with their content, etc.
right. Okay, thanks for that one. And then we jump to September, on 12th to the 21st of September, we've got the Heritage Open Days, HODS as it's nicknamed, including the Heritage Skills Market and Blitz Walking Tour on the 13th of September 2025. Have we got any more info on that one?
Yeah, John and Jess are progressing well. The Heritage Skills Market, reaching out to exhibitors, etc. Other stall holders for the day. Myself, I'm just doing the administrative background stuff with the road closure, the additional road closure, and that kind of thing. But yeah, John and Jess seem to have it all in hand, and it seemed to be progressing well. Obviously, alongside the Bob Blitz talk, we'll be speaking to Bob Collis shortly to discuss further. Obviously, a media strategy for that event. But yeah, as you said, hopefully the weather will be as kind to us as it was last year, because last year was very kind to us.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Councillor Pearce.
I mentioned HODS. Obviously, we've had a major grant on now. I think this is like the third year it's been unused, second year or third year. Obviously, there were reasons for that, particularly in the first 2 years. Personal circumstances with the organisers, the amount of time they could give, and so on like that. And I think this year it coincides because it's the Rail Plus 200. But I wonder now whether the time has come, whether we need to approach them formally. When I say we, I mean staff, to basically say, look, you know, do you intend to draw down any of this? If not, you know, do you want us to roll it over? Do you seriously intend to draw down on this next year? Or would you rather that we didn't set a ring-fenced amount, and then if you do decide to do something next year, they can make an application from the general events budget rather than having a ring-fenced amount, and let them, you know, let you know how, you know, how they see the future of this, or whether they're actually going to go with their own resources as they've been doing.
Is that a proposal, Councillor Pearce?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Councillor Rappensberger has seconded Councillor Pearce's proposal. So can we have a vote on that, please? That's unanimous, thank you.
Yeah, an email's been, thank you, Chair. Email's been sent out to stakeholders, awaiting feedback, was sent out prior to the school holidays. So just waiting feedback from local schools, academies as well to be involved in the day, and other stakeholders, East Suffolk Council, the waste recycling team, the compost team, etc. as well. So yeah.
That sounds good, thank you. Any questions on that one? No? Councillor Beacom?
Right?
Yes.
I was just looking at the minutes of the last one where it said that it was proposed that climate and emergency would contribute. Did that happen? Did they approve that?
Yes, they did approve that, I believe, on Monday.
Right, so we'll see that in future minutes as well, won't we? And at full council when that's sort of
Yeah.
pulled together. Yeah, thank you. 4th of October, Royal Naval Patrol Association 50th anniversary. Christopher, have you got any?
Saturday, the 4th of October, so obviously it's in two parts. We have the traditional Bellevue ceremony, which the mayor goes along to lay the wreath. I know we've supported this year with the anchor, the white flowered anchor. That was a decision made last year from this committee. So that will be additional cost for us, which is incorporated in our events list. So we have that. And obviously the additional part is the Sparrow's Nest. Normally it was just a speech given by Gary Timmers. Apologies, Captain Gary Timmers. But this year they're doing something extra, and we've agreed to support that with financial support, and that's be the Vibettes playing alongside. So there'll be a musical aspect this year down in Sparrow's Nest Gardens.
Thank you. Just before I bring you in, Councillor Pearce, where I stayed last week, which was sort of Suffolk Essex border, what was interesting, they had walks in this folder, and it included veteran walks or places to visit, and it went right from the south of the county right up to and included Sparrow's Nest and Bellevue Park. Some of the bits of it were a bit out of date, but I thought that was good. So they had different themes, and that was one of them. So I was quite impressed with that. So that must be the some sort of tourist information. I was trying to find where the information came from, but I thought obviously it needed to be updated a bit, but it was good that it was there and we were mentioned, because often when I look at things we get kind of missed out in Lowestoft often, but we weren't this time. So whoever's involved in that is on the ball. Councillor Pearce.
A couple of things. Can I just say, being an anorak, but some members of the association might also be sensitive about this. Royal Naval Patrol Service Association, RNPSA, and the thing that you just alluded to, Chris, the anchor, the white flower anchor memorial, and the and helping also with the amplification. We agreed that as an annual support, didn't we? Not a one-off support. Okay.
I think they requested it this year because of the 50th anniversary as an extension of what they normally do.
So I think when I proposed it in aid last year, I proposed it as an annual because it was something they used to do traditionally at the annual event. And I think because of winning the membership by virtue of age and the fact they have no income, they couldn't keep it up. So I think because we take the decision that year to give the freedom, and I propose therefore that we support that annually. So on obviously check the minute, but if it isn't clear, if it either doesn't say that or it's ambiguous, it's not clear whether it was for a one-off, or I would like to propose that we offer that as an annual support. Because the Royal Naval Patrol Service was headquartered in this town. It's intrinsically linked with Lowestoft, even though it's a national organisation. And every single member of that, when they went through the the headquarters depot, you know, I mean, it was like the main depot rather than the head of, but it essentially was the headquarters of the organisation. Every single member on their training passed through there, regardless of whether they actually served. So I think that was implicit in the decision to give them freedom. And I think it's only proper that if traditionally they used to have that white anchor wreath and they need help with that amplification, and I've been there at the reunion and I know how windy it can be and how that can take the sound away. It's a small thing to make the event, to help them manage the logistics of the event. So I'd like to propose, if it's not already clear in the minutes, that this is an annual support, and I'll make that proposal.
Right, well, I'll second that. If we can have a vote on that, please. Thank you, that's unanimous. And you can get back. Thanks for that. Thank you, Councillor Pearce. October, Black History Month, because I think it's today or tomorrow. This is the start of the summer holidays, so I know you've done a lot of work already on this, but just to update us.
Yeah, so like following on from the last meeting, you know, thank you for all those sort of pointers and decisions made. So schools have been informed again. I did that before they broke up. So I'm expecting on the competition front a bit of a quiet period for the next 6 weeks. But I will start doing some comms around it on our social medias ourselves, particularly if we end up getting some wet weeks, and trying to promote that as an activity children can do, you know, whilst it's wet and rainy, rather than going outdoors and doing the sporty stuff. So
Don't say that, Michael.
wet, rain, stop play. But yeah, and when the schools start, it'll be, you know, lots of comms around it to them directly.
Thanks for that. Unless you've got anything to update us on that's significant, I was going to cut the November through to 26 out for the next bit, or if you got anything else to mention.
I would, Chair, if
Can-
I can, just like to make one comment on remembrance.
Yeah, okay.
If I can,
Councillor
just the
King.
fact that I queried, because when we had the planning application came through, I was on our planning committee at that time, and I commented on how pleased I was that the new benches were like away from the parade ground, because and then when they were installed, they're on the area where the people march around, so they'd be right in the way of the parade. We did query that on a walk round at which Caroline Topping was present. She took that back to East Suffolk Council. The reply has been that they are there for now, but they will be moved before remembrance. So there won't be any obstructions
Oh,
to
right.
where they parade round
That's interesting.
the orbit, the memorial.
Okay.
Why they were put there in the first place, I don't know, but it was raised.
Right.
And also there was the other comment which I had earlier in the year. So in view of delays, it might be worth checking, but actually where all the ground was dug up and everything for the
Yes, yeah.
fountains and so on like that, was assured that that would be cleared for remembrance. But whether that is still the case, I don't know.
Still the case.
Yeah,
Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, because it's been quite a massive lot of groundworks there, hasn't there? Been. So
Obviously, we have to put an event application form in. Anything will be, as you said, anything will be alert to them. So, and they will send any communications back via their portal. But the understanding of officers was right what you're saying, Councillor Pearce.
oh, good. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Okay, Councillor Baker.
Black History Month. Michael, you mentioned that the kids could do it over summer. I thought it was just open for schools to do it. So anyone can just enter?
Yeah, anyone can enter, not just schools. We have had in the past a few people who have entered not through their school, separately. I think it's a good way of getting more engagement and also raising awareness.
How would you verify their age though? Or are you just basing it on trust?
I do everything by trust.
Can I just ask that the contact we had with East Coast College over the town hall, the art department, I just wondered whether you'd follow that up, because that would be helpful because it was great to get them engaged in that. And I just wondered if you'd followed up with the college. So you have. Great stuff. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, going back to Black History Month as well.
Yeah.
Sorry for not having my microphone on, apologies. So it's that aspect for the main event, and the committee said about using the same location. They were happy with the last location from previous testing from other locations that were less accessible. But that, and you said exhibitors there possibly in food catering, so it's obviously incorporating that cost to
Okay.
consider.
Councillor Pearce.
I can't remember because we haven't got this, but we don't have a ring fenced amount, do we? For it comes out the main events budget. So I think, but whether we had, on that document where you have expenditure against budget, but down below where we have committed expenditure, where we agree, James will put it in, and then that ring fences it against that. I don't know whether we'd already pre-agreed a budget there, because we used to have a budget, if memory serves, it was between. This is not for the actual event hire, but for the actual prizes. It was around about £700, because I think it was like £50 or £100 per category. It was one for the winning entry and one for the school if they were affiliated with the school, times the number of categories, and then the overall prize. And I think because it was being spoken about that, particularly at that primary school level, we need to split them out, because there's a world of difference between a 6 or 7 year old and a 10-year-old. And I said, could we have an updated budget if the number of categories is going to expand? But basically, I think, Chris, if you give us an indicative, or Michael, both of you, if you give us an indicative budget based on basically the number of categories times the prize plus the event hire, and then just say, look, conservatively, we think this is what we'd need for all aspects of the Black History Month.
Is that okay to come back?
Yes,
to the
Yeah.
committee with a more definitive figure. I don't want to plug a figure out.
No, that would be good. Yeah.
but I think have we? I think we might already have had a ring fence budget code from what I would say, because we're going to have another month. I don't know whether you're going to likely to do any organisation between then. I would just say, look, let's give staff a working delegation. This includes the prizes for the categories of, let's say £1,000 for the whole event, and staff to come back next month and let us know anything in excess of 1,000 that they require.
Thank you, Councillor
That
Pearce.
sounds
I'll
good.
make that as a proposal.
Seconded by Councillor Begum, and a vote. Thank you. And then if you come back with any tweaks that you need. Okay, thank you very much. So we now jump. So there's nothing else on any of these other comments. Okay. If you're new to this committee, what we do, we review and get feedback on what we've done, events that the council have done, and then we look forward. And then obviously the items at the end are quite far away, so that's why we're jumping to 21.5.
Can I just come back
Sorry.
on that last point?
Yeah.
To Chris and Michael, would you just let James know that after this thing and ask him to ring fence that in the budget so it comes off the?
That will be in our new system, Councillor Pearce, decisions. That will be
Oh, decisions. Yes, thank you. That'll be on the easy to follow system. 21.5, to note the Lowestoft Town Council Summer Activities Programme. This sounds really great.
So. Thank you, Chair. I think it's quite important that sort of this committee, there's so much going on this coming summer, more so than previous, because obviously we've got the sports offering, we've got the town hall activities, and obviously our own offerings under our banner. So I think it's important that all councillors, I know you get the councillor update, but obviously to note in the committee what events are going on under our portfolio. So yeah, as you said, we've got the Andy the Clown that's happening 3 sessions at Sparrows Nest. I know obviously we discussed about Normanston Park, but logistics have stopped us using Normanston Park this year, but might be something next year we look at. But 3 sessions being held at Sparrows Nest Gardens. We've got our activities, our Dino Jam activity on the 5th of August in between, so that's a nice program of children activity events. Marina Theatre will be their community team doing, and also John our John from the Town Hall project will be alongside doing engagement as well. So as you said, excited for that, and weather permitting, it goes well. Because they're outdoor events. So you've got that aspect. You've got also the sports activities, which is now just launched. I don't know if you've seen on social media platforms, Facebook and Insta, do follow and like, share accordingly. So as you said, they've now started, and positive feedback from yesterday's RSA collaboration, and they're fully booked. You're fully subscribed, so that's good. A good indicator of the need for tennis and the sports in Dean's Oval. So that's been really positively received. So you've got that, and obviously Town Hall. There'll be activities now. Be up the Town Hall will be tagging on to other events, and obviously delivering in food and school holidays activities as well. So yeah.
Well, thanks to that. And again, that'll come out onto councillor update, won't it, on a Friday, because I always find that really helpful because you can see the week ahead. Councillor Pearce.
Just something about summer activities generally, not directly the town council programme, but I'll explain the distinction in a moment. But a comment was made to me, and I'll declare for openness that this came from a family member with 2 children. So I'm not lobbying on behalf of them or anything like that, but I thought it was a very valid point, and not one that I've really actually given a great deal of thought to myself until the comment was made. But obviously there are a number of authorities and bodies that put on summer activities, including the other local authorities, some of the schools, and so on like that. But some of them have a more restricted access, even where they're free. It's for people on low incomes, for example, and so on like that. And so this family member said to me, look, I don't mind paying. I can pay, that them and the husband both work. But they have the problem over the summer, because they both work, at finding things for their children to do, to keep them occupied. So it isn't a case of wanting someone else to pay for it. It is wanting activities that they can take their children to, where they will be supervised while they work, for example, and things like that. And I just wonder where our staff are liaising with other bodies and so on like that. Could we just communicate this need? Because I think sometimes it might fall through the gap, because it might be thought that actually just the lack of financial means might be the only barrier to participation, and actually there's a wider issue in the summer over having to provide supervised activities for children where necessary, where the person can potentially pay, but whether some events are restricted to people on low incomes and where they're not available to them.
Just to make it clear for anyone watching at home, all our activities are free to access.
Yes.
And I think that is the commitment of the council, which is positively received. We're always down, by, as you rightly pointed out, Councillor Pearce, some people have that misconception that they are paid for activities. All our activities are free, and we're happy to assist where possible.
So I realise that's the case with the town council, which is why I said my comment doesn't directly relate to the town council summer activities programme, but where we are liaising network with colleagues and other authorities and so on like that, where they might have restrictions on access, they might still be free to access benefits, but they might be, the free to access might be means tested. Is what I'm getting at. So people can afford to pay might actually not be eligible to participate. So it's the eligibility rather than the payment I'm getting at. Is can we communicate that need to our opposite numbers in the other authorities about actually, there might be people who are willing to pay. They just need the activity. They need something for their children, because they're not on holiday for 6 weeks. The children are. And so they have to carry on working, but still find something for their children to do. Whether that's something that can be taken under consideration in
like Marina Theatre community, and they have like a small allocated budget for people that are low income or have issues accessing funds, etc., which they're able to access on a case by case basis. So if you ask, if that asks, it's not to say that's exclusive for some people, etc. But
so I think the point I'm getting at with other authorities is would they be able to consider putting on activities where actually they don't have to subsidise them for people who can and are willing to pay. Just would they be able to include people who need to find something for their children to do during the summer, but their children won't qualify as like low income families, but so these people are willing to pay. They just want an activity for their children to be involved in, but they are willing to, you know, to pay for their children's participation. That's really what I'm driving at.
Yeah, thanks, that Councillor Pearce. I mean, it might also be worthwhile asking. I mean, obviously schools are shut at the moment, but some schools do provide some school activities that are separate from the school, often like after school clubs that then arrange that in the school holidays. So it might be worthwhile possibly just finding out, because I think one of the things I've noticed, and this is through and I'll declare an interest. I'm a volunteer at Suffolk Wildlife Trust, and they do things in the summer holidays as well as the fish activities. Is that it's almost like there's no kind of joining of the dots, which is what you're saying, Councillor Pearce, that sometimes there's different organisations doing these things, and it's only after they've happened that people have said to me, "Oh, I didn't realise this was going on," or that was we were eligible for this. So it might be an interesting exercise, and it would probably be a big one, which to find out what need there is there.
Yeah, I think
Maybe.
for organisations like us, there's nothing really we need to do, because it's open to everyone,
Yes.
regardless of ability to pay, and no one has to pay. But for those organisations who say we are only putting on this event for those on low incomes, and therefore they are setting, you know, although it's free to access, it's essentially only for those on low income. So therefore there's an eligibility restriction. And there might be other people who say, well, actually, our children would really enjoy that. We're not asking anybody to pay for us. We quite like our children to join in, but we're willing to pay our way. Whether the other authorities have actually considered that there is a need for activities for local people. People aren't asking to be subsidised. They're not asking for people to pay for their children to do this activity, but they need someone to run an event while they're at work that their children can engage in.
Yeah, I do think activities that are required in the summer holidays across the board is a real issue. I'd agree, but quite how we find out the numbers, I don't know, because as you say, Christopher, we do provide activities free of charge. So maybe it's just something to think about. Or
Really, when our officers liaising with the numbers of other authorities, I was looking for them maybe to open that discussion and see whether there can be a wider discussion.
As you said, we have our officers have a quarterly events meeting with East Suffolk Council, and we're happy to bring it up with Janet Perry there. And she has a lot of contacts across the county.
and you've got the quarterly liaison meeting, haven't you, coming up? That might be an item to put on there, just as a general find out exercise.
It'll probably be too late for this summer, because we're in July, and also the quarterly liaison meeting is next week, and I think the agenda's looking quite heavy anyway. But it might definitely be worth having it on a quarterly liaison meeting over the winter, so that East Suffolk can have a think about it ahead of next summer.
Be a good one. No, it could be Christmas, half term, or whatever. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it could be Christmas or half term, because that is the perennial problem for what are increasingly, people having to work to survive, if you like, at the moment. Okay, well, thanks for that. It's a big issue that at least we're addressing, so that's important. So any thoughts on that, you can feed into the office as well. Thank you for that. Item 21.6, to consider holding an annual mayor's ball. Just before we start on this one, just to say, you'll note, again, this is for people who haven't been a member of this before. On the bottom of the events, we've got 2026 civic event, and the idea of that was to have some sort of civic event when the town hall is going to be opened, and then thereafter, because it's such a big space to hold something like that, to have a civic event there on an annual basis. So that, just to say, that is a kind of a thought that this committee had already marked, if you like. But yeah, was that Councillor Baker?
Yeah, that sounds good. But
Yeah,
the mayor's ball, yeah, I asked for it to be added on here. I've been thinking about it for a while, because
Yeah.
we get invited to mayor's balls around the county, and we don't have anything like that
No.
here. It's a good way to raise money. It wouldn't
Yeah.
be it wouldn't cost the town council anything, because you generate enough income to cover the cost. Obviously, if the town council wanted to contribute towards the charity, that's a different matter. I've done a bit of sort of research on it. Spoke to, because I'm a rep on Lowestoft Vision, so I spoke to them because they organise things like that as well, balls and things. And yeah, I just think it's a good way to raise money for charity. Other areas, the mayors at the beginning of the civic year, they choose the charities that they want to support throughout the year. We don't do anything like that.
No.
I just, yeah, like I said, I think it's a good way to raise money for charity, local charities.
I think it's Councillor Newsom and then Councillor Pearce.
I mean, I'm speaking from a bread and butter working class background. You know, I don't really sort of know these kind of events. I think I'm not against it as such, but I have a concern that these kind of civic events are the same. It's all business leaders, top politicians, stuff like that, and it doesn't really generate into the roots of the community, sort of the people that arguably I sort of represent. So I think there's a concern really from my perspective that it might be quite inclusive to a certain amount of people. And I think, you know, in terms of raising money for charity and stuff like that and celebrating the town hall, I think, yes, the premise and idea is good, but I think it needs to be more broader to the wider community.
Thank you. I think it's Councillor Pearce and Councillor Ravensburger.
So I think I agree with both those points, even though they appear to be adversarial. They're not. I think it's just sort of identifies the consideration that needs to go into them. There is an overlap with a civic event, although it's not exactly the same thing. I mean, Alan, when he was our mayor, that's how many years ago it was, had spoken about when he used to go and represent the town council at civic events down in Bury and Ipswich, for example, and mayors and from all over Suffolk would be invited to attend, but we could never reciprocate because we didn't own the roof over our head. Essentially, we're in rented accommodation ourselves. We had nowhere really large enough to host such an event. Obviously, that wouldn't be the case once we're in the town hall. And the issue then was essentially what the initial discussion was actually what date to settle on for a civic event that was identifiable with Lowestoft, because Suffolk Day is Suffolk Day. It's not unique to Lowestoft. Any other day that we think of as a major event, it isn't unique to Lowestoft. We wanted something that would be unique to Lowestoft. Lowestoft isn't one of those towns that were founded off the back of this, you know, major event that you could say, okay, this battle led to the founding of this town. You know, didn't happen. Lowestoft grew up, you know, over a period of years, centuries, and so there was some discussion over that. And I think obviously when, you know, when the town hall reached the stage where we got the funding, we knew it was going to happen. The logical date on which to have it, if it was viable, would be to have the inaugural one around about the time of the opening of the town hall, and then annually thereafter. The opening of the town hall would essentially be that symbolic date. As with Christian, I'm not used to these events, so I don't know whether that is a good time of year to be hosting a mayor's ball or whether that traditional summer's event. That's something to be looked into. Picking up on Christian's point, I mean, I do get that, and I think that's the thing with civic events generally, like Suffolk Day, they're Marmite, because some people don't feel comfortable attending an event where you've got people wearing all the regalia, business leaders as well, and something like that. But you know, at the same point, Lowestoft, to have its identity, needs to be represented at that event. Otherwise, we lose our voice. And it's how do you strike that balance? And I think if we had a mayor's ball, what we'd have to have, if we knew like how many places we'd have, you'd potentially need to have tables where the business group, because it's going to be like the Lions, isn't it, or the Rotary or something like that, where you know people sponsor a table, if you effectively like, and what they're paying in effectively goes to local charities. But equally, if we want local community groups to be invited, then there probably needs to be a community space there, and the logistics of that and where you strike the balance need to be worked out so that it isn't seen, even though it would be raising money to be reinvested in the local community and for local charities, that it isn't actually seen as an exclusive event to which local grassroots people are not invited and not welcome. And I think that kind of detail needs to be thrashed out. As John Murray would say, the optics need to be worked out to make sure that it doesn't end up being counterproductive. But I think the actual rationale behind it is that actually, Lowestoft Town Council might organise it. But so I mean, the way I would see it happening from a financial point of view is pretty much along the lines of the recent 10K raise. We might have to set the budget because we've got to pay the bills up front to organise it. But then what comes in, unless we waive that, would essentially recoup our costs. So it would be cost neutral to us. So I think we should do it, but I think we equally need to take on board the points that Christian had made to make sure that actually this does not become an exclusive event, and that actually it is emphasised that this is not a jolly for business people and civic bigwigs that's being funded from taxpayers' pockets. There will be no net cost to the taxpayer, and actually, if we are raising money that's going back into the new local community, there will be a net financial benefit to the local taxpayer. So I would like to propose that in principle we do this, and that we actually ask our staff to start investigating the viability and logistics, speaking with the stakeholders they do, with a view to the fact that the inaugural event would be on or around the time of the opening town hall, so either very late next year or very early 2027. And that would be our lead-in time, but we would need to have some idea of what we are doing sort of by January this year, because we'd need to set a budget for the startup costs, and we obviously have to submit our budget in January.
I've got Councillor Rappensberger and then Councillor Webb wish to speak.
Yeah, I think I more or less concur with what Christian has said. I think we need to be very careful about the perception of this. As Andy borrowed John Murray's phrase, the optics of it. I'm very in favour of having a mayor's charity, which I think could be picked by the incoming mayor each year, and I feel it should be a local charity or a couple of local charities. And of course, because we have discussed for a while the idea of a civic event as well, which hopefully can include local organisations and local people.
Councillor Webb.
Don't know where to start, really. At the beginning, Chris, thank you. I don't want this to sound samey or me, because that's not what I'm trying to say or try to get at. I've been fortunate enough to be the mayor of Lowestoft on 2 occasions with from another place that we won't mention. So I have put on 2 mayor's balls. I've organised 2 mayor's balls, and I say that because especially on the second occasion, it was down to me to organise as the mayor, with no support, no officer support. And I know that I'm in a much better place now, looking at you two, that I would get that support, Christopher, Michael. If we were to do it, in all seriousness, it's a lot of hard work. And yes, I would fully support the mayor's ball and bringing it back. It's always been very much down to the individual mayor of the day as to whether they wanted it. It's always been hit and miss. It's happened, it hasn't happened, it's happened, it hasn't happened. It's always been down to the individual mayor of the day, whether they wanted it. the times that we've that I organised it along with my better half, who probably organised it rather than me. I just hosted it, if I'm honest. The invitation, it wasn't, we didn't have an invitation list as such. A lot of people that came and we got involved and were contacted were people from events that we'd attended. So, you know, so we'd supported the list, which is hence the reason for the list is important. That list of events that you mayors attend is important because that's a starting point of where we go. Very much take on what Christian and Bernie have said and fully take that on board and supportive of that. It's very much a community led. That's the way that's the way I played it when I did it. Previously, you're absolutely quite right. I've been to these events where it is business people, MPs, dignitaries, whatever you want to say. But no, I would. I looking at the new town hall. If we've got, I'm still new to that place in terms of the town hall project team. If we've got a space in there that we're going to be able to hold, that's always been our difficulty. When we've had the only place you can hold a mayor's ball now, if it was to go ahead today, you've got two choices. You have got two choices. You've got the Hotel Victoria or you've got the IVLs. It's the only two venues that you could host that could host a mayor's ball of any note to make it worthwhile. The Victoria it's 175 people to a sit down dinner, which is what they are. You've got risk assessments to prep. You've got you need that support to be able to raise, to make it worthwhile financially. If the object of the event is to raise money for charity, you've got to get a company on board behind you, or a couple of companies like sponsorship. Which the second time round I did that. I had a company who sponsored the event, so everything that we raised went to exactly what we wanted to do and went to local charities. That's all I'll say at this point because I think Andy wants to.
All I was going to say was in the town hall, the seating capacity in the main hall, is it 80 or 100? It's 100. So if we were looking for more than that, we might, you know, for a sit down, but otherwise we're going to be limited to 100 seated. But you know, that can be weighed up. But I think exactly what you're saying, Nick, about how much work goes into it and something like that is why, even if we may not be looking at hosting the first one until late 26 or early 27, I think it's why we need to start thinking about it now. And also, you know, what we are trying to achieve is for the benefit of the local community, but managing those optics, as we've said, I think we're all agreed on that. So if we could just ask our staff to take it away under advisement and sort of start looking into feasibility and an options paper. I'm not talking about bringing it back to the next meeting, you know, but just start the work now, sort of between now and the end of the year. Would that be okay? Obviously speak with people who have expertise in this, like Vision, like Nick, who's been there before. Don't feel that, you know, you have to do it all yourself. Speak with who you need to speak to, the people who have been involved in these events. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, can I just say I went in a personal capacity to the Access Community Trust, which was recent charity event, which did have a large number of people that were pulled in from all over the place that are involved with Access Community Trust, from the health service. There were businesses, there were sponsorships, there was a silent auction. you know, we're talking things that would cost £500 or £600 to sponsor, and there was that feeling, and it was acknowledged at the time, that obviously it's a homeless charity that they were looking at. So you had that feeling, if you like, that sort of dichotomy between the fact there you were dressed up and the optics of that. The MP was there as well, and business community members. But at the end of the night, they'd raised nearly £15,000. So, and the tickets were expensive. Put no finer point on it, but most of the money came from the auction and the raffle. So again, and I totally agree with everything that everybody said. One, you've got the organisation, and two, you've got to be aware, very, very sensitive issue to do with the optics. I think that is so important, because it's almost like you almost feel uncomfortable, I think, or I did personally, not everybody would, about something that's raising funds on one hand, and you know, you've got the charities or the organisations at the same time. So you have to really balance those things. So we have to really be aware of that, and how some people will perceive it, and possibly the negativity that might come with that. So plus the positivity of raising funds for organisations which otherwise wouldn't have the money. There's always that push me, pull you. So yeah, really put that down to getting some feedback and at the next meeting. And Councillor Webb, did you want to come in on that one?
Just to finish off, really. One of the charities that I supported was back in that was Lord Kitchener's. They've since gone on from the Mayor's Ball. They've gone on and they've got obviously new management in, and they've gone on and they've taken that on board. What we did for them, they were so appreciative. They've gone on and now the last few years now been doing it themselves, and they've been having their own annual ball. It's on again this year in September, November, I can't remember. So yeah, there's a lot of these things. Yes, Sonia, you've attended along with myself. So we know what these things are like. I mean, just being selfish, I always used to hold. You had to find that time in the calendar, and I was always reminded not to have it too late in the year, in the civic year, being around May, June time, because of the political element of it. So me being selfish, I always used to have it on my birthday weekend. I'm declaring that now because it was just an extension of that, really. And I'll leave it there. But I'm happy to, if Chris, Naseem, whoever wants to, I'm happy to be involved in any discussions going forward.
Okay, thank you. So that was the proposal from Councillor.
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, invitation. Something in the
Yeah, just to say as well, having been to civic celebrations, if you can call it that, in other places like Southwold, Beccles, Bungay, Ipswich and Felixstowe, they sort of have that separately too. Some of them had a separate ball as well. So, you don't have to say, well, we'll have a mayor's ball as a civic. You could have your civic opening of the town hall as a separate thing.
Yep.
You don't have to have them together. So, and it is about, and I think that to me was so important, is to get Lowestoft out there, because we're such a new council and a lot of people, again, you get that feedback, positivity when you go to these different places. And I always felt a little bit, oh, well, we're not inviting you back. It's a bit like not inviting people back to your house. You're being invited to go there. And I know Ipswich, which is obviously a lot bigger, they had a separate ball and a separate civic event each year. So you haven't got to necessarily have the two together. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So to think about the opening of the town hall, which will be a massive, yeah, it could be separate. But anyway, so we've got the proposal. Did you want, Michael, you wanted to just come in?
Just going to come in because, sort of hearing all the conversations, it might be worth looking at what a few other authorities do with their mayoral year and sort of mayoral charity. I know from my hometown they have the big mayoral ball where they have the silent auction and the thing, raise a lot of money. It's businesses, it's dignitaries. They couple that with a community annual sponsored swimathon and a family fun day, which also raises money for the charity. So when you're thinking about how this looks and perceived, there are probably ways we can work around, get the community involved in that, because really you're championing that charity for the year. I agree, a local charity, exactly what happens from whence I come. So yeah, I think that's something we could probably look at.
So in terms of looking at a paper, when I said speak with who you need to speak to, about people who've done it before locally and things like that, please do speak with other authorities who already do this to find out not only how they do it, but how they manage the optics.
I haven't got my mic on. I look forward to the town hall being the town hall opening being a reset for this authority. It's an opportunity for the town council, us, to reset ourselves and put ourselves out there and say, this is who we are. We've now been 7-8 years in the making. Yeah, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to achieve. Come on board with us and engage with the community to come on board with us. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I've been saying for a few years that as far as I'm concerned, out of all our policies, the community engagement one is the best one. But we've not really had the wherewithal to do everything that we want to do, fulfil our aspirations under that policy. But also, this town council needs to have its own identity and profile, and people need to know what we stand for, because the council is one of the biggest urban myths in this town. There isn't just one, and and you're all the same is another familiar refrain, and actually we're emphatically not. So I think there are a lot of misperceptions out there, and sometimes we have to take some responsibility for that, because we don't make it clear what we stand for all the time. And there is the opportunity to do that with, to borrow the jargon, with our name above the door, as opposed to living in rented accommodation. We have more opportunity to do that in the town, to do so more visibly. And like you said, we still won't have the space of those two larger venues, but we will have the space there to host a venue of a significant size in the town centre, to bring something to it that it badly needs for everyone's benefit and involving everyone.
Right, so pulling this all together then, so we've had a proposal to, could you just remind us what it was?
So the proposal basically, I take the point that, you know, whilst there is an overlap with a civic event, it doesn't have to be
No,
the same.
it could be
They
two
can be
separate things.
But that we ask
Yeah.
our staff to look into this, to put a paper together, sort of between now and the end
Yeah.
of this calendar year, on how we might approach it, the things we need to consider, even if it's going to be cost neutral, if we need to pay the setup cost, because the you know, those costs will then be recouped from what's happening, what we need to budget for initial outlay, even though it will come back in, that kind of thing. When we would envisage the first one being, you know, is it going to be late 2026, very early 2027? Is it going to be a completely different time of year? But allowing a
Bit of time.
and speaking with who they need to speak to. I mean, I think Lowestoft Vision need to be spoken to, because that, you know, we need that link into the business community, even if it's not just a business thing. But other local authorities have done it, people like Nick who have done it. Speak with local community groups and charities who you know,
the first people you speak to are the people that attended events.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So events we've attended, how they would like to see it working, and so on like that. So speak to all the stakeholders that you feel you need to speak to get a perspective, and then put a concept down on paper with an indicative budget and bring it back. And that would be my proposal.
Okay, the proposal seconded, and a vote, please. That's 4 against, 1 and abstention.
I'll abstain. I'll be interested. I'm not going to say I wouldn't support it, but I think I want a bit more information and to see what it
Okay.
looks like.
Thank you.
That's really what the proposal is, to get
Yeah.
a concept that we can actually chew over.
What I can do, obviously, if you've been mayor or deputy mayor, you can feed in information as well, which will be helpful. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Item 22, to receive an update on the information board for Gunton Cliff, featuring Vera Britton and other notable people who've lived there. Michael, have you got an?
Yeah, so it's sort of following on, you know, we had the site visit, Councillor Barker, on Gunton Cliff sort of ideas, but then when we then had that last sort of discuss this previous meeting, the idea then came up of, well, not just Vera Britton, but other notable people. I think it's how far we go with that will determine what we do, whether it's a one board thing, whether it becomes some kind of trail, then we have to start looking at other logistics around all that. It's who these other people are. So a good steer on that if anyone's got any information. And then from there, getting the information, working out how we're going to present it, and then that can sort of really influence what the final product is.
Well, what I was going to say, because obviously we had the site meeting earlier this year. I can find out the info on Vera Britton because I've got personal interest in her, so I'll declare that as an interest. Yeah, I'm sure we can contact maybe John through the Town Hall project might have some information on the notables that lived along there. I'm not quite sure who they are, but I obviously knew about Vera Britton. Well, and her sadly demised fiance Roland Leighton and the Leighton family that lived in the house where she went to and features in her book, Testament Youth. So, I mean, I could send that information to you, and I'm sure other members of this committee or any other committee could. Councillor Pearce.
Yeah, can I also suggest, we agreed some time ago that the Heritage Focus Group, which was originally set up as a focus group for the Town Hall, we would regard them as a consultee group on all matters of local history and heritage where we required information or a second opinion. As they don't they include not only local museums and heritage outlets, but also people like Ivan Bunn, David Butcher, who aren't affiliated to organisations, but you know, some of our most respected and knowledgeable local historians. Maybe contact them for that kind of information. Just on another note, bearing in mind the stuff out in the cabinet, out in the hallway, Dorothy Dalamer, who obviously is most associated because of what she was commemorated for as her work with the GPO, like during the war. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure when I was looking into in the 1939 register, I think she was living somewhere up near Gunton Warren. I don't know anything about her family background, but was living up that neck of the woods. I'd probably be able to go back and recheck that and just find out. But I've not really researched her background, so I don't know whether that was a family home or whether that's just where she was at that particular time. But you know, there's another one who you know, another local person and local lady who's been spoken about as very prominent in local history at that time. But yeah, I would make the proposal, and yeah, if it can be done administratively, fine. But I'll make the proposal that in addition to what we may individually be able to come up with, please put out inquiries formally to the Heritage Focus Group.
Can do, yeah.
Need a vote on that?
Okay, thank you. Item 23, date of the next meeting, which is Wednesday, the 27th of August at 10 a.m. The day after the next full council meeting. For those. Item 24, items for the next agenda. Well, they'll be the items that we've raised in the meeting. Anybody got anything else? If you can't think of anything now, you can email in.
Could I just ask, I made a comment in confidential session and I'd rather stayed in confidential session, so those who were there will know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
don't want to elaborate.
No.
The scores race, I asked if a conversation could be had
Oh,
and,
yes.
and whether
Yeah.
we could have some feedback on that for future years as to whether that is something they would like to consider. Yep.
Okay, if you could put that on the next agenda. Yeah, and if anybody has any items they suddenly think of, Christopher usually sends out a little note, don't you, that goes out before the agenda goes out of this meeting, that if you need anything to add, you can do so as a member of the committee. So don't think you've got a, you know, it's not hard and fast rule. If you've got anything, just send it in. If you can copy me in, so I'm sort of semi-aware of it, that's helpful. Well, and Nick, who's vice chair. Okay, thanks for that. And the meeting has closed, and thank you for coming along. Okay, thank you.
I'll stay here, yeah.